It's the summer of 2006. Facebook is barely 2 years old. It began as a dorm room project at Harvard, and now it's spreading rapidly across universities. But outside the company, few people are sure what it will become. Inside Facebook's small offices, the mood shifts overnight. Yahoo has made an offer: $1 billion. For a 22-year-old founder, that number is almost impossible to comprehend. Overnight, it would mean wealth beyond imagination, security for life, validation, a clear ending to the uncertainty that follows every startup founder like a shadow. And almost everyone around him thinks the answer is obvious. Investors see a massive exit. Board members see a once-in-a-lifetime deal. Executives worry about competitors like MySpace, which at the time dominated social networking. The space feels unstable and crowded. The future is far from guaranteed. Even people like Peter Thiel, who usually supported Zuckerberg's long-term vision, lean towards selling. The message around him is clear: take the money, be smart, don't gamble what you already have. And for the first time, the pressure isn't coming from competitors. It's coming from inside the room. Imagine being 22 and holding that decision. If he says yes, nobody blames him. He becomes a billionaire immediately. The story ends as a success. But if he says no and Facebook collapses later, he won't just lose money. He'll look naive, reckless. The kid who ignored experienced advice and destroyed a billion-dollar opportunity. And that kind of fear, the fear of being publicly wrong, is heavier than fear of failure itself. Zuckerberg hesitates, not because he doesn't understand the risk, but because he sees something others don't yet see. To most people, Facebook looks like a fast-growing website. To him, it feels bigger, a foundation for how people might connect online in the future. The decision isn't just financial, it's existential. Does he build something safe or something uncertain that might change the world? He says no. The deal dies, and the fallout is immediate. Some senior executives leave, tensions rise, doubts linger, and for a while, there is no guarantee he made the right choice. He's still just a 22-year-old carrying the weight of $1 billion. Facebook doesn't collapse. It grows, from colleges to the world, eventually becoming one of the most influential technology platforms ever created. And that $1 billion offer? In hindsight, it looks tiny. Nobody around Zuckerberg thought they were being fearful. They called it being realistic, taking a smart exit, reducing risk, and that's the danger. Fear rarely sounds like panic. It sounds like a reason. When the future is uncertain, the human brain naturally prefers the known reward over the unknown possibility. Psychologists call this loss aversion. We fear losing what we already have more than we value what we could gain. Fear doesn't always say, "Don't move." Sometimes it says, "Be sensible." The lesson isn't that Zuckerberg was fearless. It's that he tolerated fear long enough to choose vision over certainty. Because sometimes fear doesn't hold you back from stopping you. Sometimes it offers you something small enough to make you forget what you were really trying to build. Zuckerberg's story shows how fear can disguise itself as reason. How the safest decision can quietly pull you away from what you're really trying to build. But fear doesn't only appear at the beginning of a journey. Sometimes it arrives later, after you've already succeeded. Because protecting something that works can feel safer than risking it for what comes next. That's where Reed Hastings and Netflix found themselves. Welcome to Triops. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 powerful stories of individuals who stood face to face with fear, felt the pressure to give in, and almost walked away, but chose to push through anyway, and what their journeys reveal about the invisible ways fear tries to hold us back. It's the late 2000s. Netflix is doing well. Millions of people receive red envelopes in their mailboxes every week. The DVD rental business is strong, predictable, and profitable. For many companies, this would be the moment to protect what works. But inside Netflix, something feels unsettling. Reed Hastings sees the future coming. Faster internet, digital media, a world where physical DVDs might disappear. The problem is, that future threatens everything Netflix has built. Streaming isn't proven yet. The technology is inconsistent. Licensing is expensive. And most customers still rely on DVDs. Moving too early could destroy revenue. Moving too late could make the company irrelevant. Inside the company, fear grows. Executives worry about alienating loyal customers. Investors question the timing. Analysts wonder why Netflix would risk a successful business for an uncertain one. And then comes the moment that defines the decision. Netflix announces it will separate its DVD service from streaming, a move that confuses customers and sparks backlash. The stock price crashes nearly 80%. Millions of subscribers leave. The media calls it a disaster. For Hastings, this isn't abstract failure. It's public humiliation unfolding in real time. He could reverse course. Most leaders would, but he doesn't. Because he believes something uncomfortable. If Netflix protects today's success, it will lose tomorrow's future. The fear isn't just failure. It's becoming obsolete while trying to stay safe. So, he stays the course. Streaming improves, content expands, internet speeds catch up, and slowly, almost quietly, the decision that looked catastrophic becomes inevitable. Netflix transforms from a DVD company into one of the most powerful entertainment platforms in the world. The lesson isn't that Reed Hastings wasn't afraid, he was. The lesson is that fear often tells you to protect what already works, even when growth requires letting it go. Because sometimes fear doesn't hold you back by stopping you from starting. Sometimes it holds you back by convincing you to stay exactly where you already are. Fear gets louder when progress looks like decline. When Netflix announced the transition, the results looked disastrous. Stock dropped dramatically, millions of customers canceled their subscriptions, and public criticism exploded. From the outside, it looked like failure. This is where most people quit, when change creates visible pain before visible progress. Fear mistakes temporary discomfort for permanent damage. Netflix teaches us that fear often tells us to stay where we are, to protect the present instead of risking the future. But there is another level of fear, the kind that doesn't just threaten success, the kind that threatens survival itself. The moment when everything you've built could disappear at once. That's the position our next figure found himself in. In 2002, Elon Musk walks away from PayPal after the company is sold to eBay. The deal makes him rich. For the first time in his life, he has what most people spend decades chasing: financial security, freedom, the ability to step away and live comfortably forever. Most people would slow down, buy a house, travel, protect what they earned. But Musk doesn't. Instead, he does something that looks irrational. He pours almost all of his money into two ideas that most people think are impossible. One is SpaceX, a company trying to build affordable rockets in an industry dominated by governments and giant defense contractors. The other is Tesla, a small electric car company that many experts believe has no chance of competing with established automakers. At this point, these aren't safe investments, they're bets. And he isn't just funding them, he's deeply involved, risking both his fortune and reputation. For a while, progress seems possible. SpaceX builds rockets, Tesla develops prototypes, but building the future is expensive. And in 2008, everything starts to collapse at once. The global financial crisis hits. Investors pull back. Credit dries up. Costs rise. SpaceX fails 3 rocket launches in a row. Each explosion destroys not just hardware, but months of work and millions of dollars. Inside Tesla, money is running out. Production delays pile up. The company teeters on bankruptcy. Suddenly, Musk isn't a visionary founder. He's a man watching 2 companies sink at the same time. The fear becomes real. If both companies fail, he won't just lose money. He'll lose almost everything he earned from PayPal. His reputation will collapse. He will become the example everyone uses when they talk about ambition gone too far. And the pressure isn't theoretical. It's immediate. Bills are due. Employees depend on the decisions he makes daily. There are nights when payroll itself feels uncertain. He reaches a terrifying point. He has just enough money left to keep one company alive, not both. He later describes it as choosing between 2 children who are drowning. Fear whispers the obvious answer: save yourself. Protect what remains. Walk away before everything disappears. Instead, he does something few people would. He divides his remaining money between the 2 companies, not because he feels confident, because he believes that if either survives, the mission continues. Then comes the final chance. SpaceX launches a fourth rocket. If it fails, the company is finished. The rocket reaches orbit. Days later, NASA awards SpaceX a contract worth billions. At nearly the same time, Tesla secures emergency funding that keeps it alive. The collapse stops, barely. Looking back, it's easy to see the outcome as inevitable. It wasn't. In 2008, the future of both companies balanced on a thin line between perseverance and fear. The lesson isn't that Musk didn't feel fear. It's that fear offered him a perfectly reasonable way out, and he refused it. Fear doesn't always hold you back by saying you can't. Sometimes it says you've already done enough. Protect what's left. Don't risk everything, and many people listen. When you place these three stories side by side, a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Mark Zuckerberg shows us that fear often sounds reasonable, encouraging us to take the safe win and avoid being publicly wrong. Reed Hastings shows us that fear grows when change looks like decline, when short-term pain makes the future feel uncertain. And Elon Musk reveals fear at its most extreme, when protecting what's left feels smarter than continuing to risk everything. Different industries, different personalities, but the same psychological force. Fear rarely appears as panic. It appears as logic, as a caution, as sensible advice. The truth is, fear doesn't always hold you back by stopping you from moving forward. Sometimes it holds you back by convincing you to settle early, to protect what already exists, or to walk away just before the breakthrough.